The build-up to the fight, turn of the century, had brought with it new challenges and uncertainties for former heavyweight champion Mike Tyson. After serving his prison sentence in the late 90s, Tyson had returned to the ring, albeit with a slightly different aura about him. Gone was the once untouchable beast of the ring. The Mike Tyson of 1999 was a fighter in search of redemption, still powerful but no longer in his prime. Tyson had lost his undisputed heavyweight title in 1990, and while he remained a fearsome force, he was working his way back into the limelight with each fight. Tyson's opponent on October 23, 1999, was Orlin Norris, a relatively lesser-known but capable fighter who had faced a string of ups and downs throughout his career. Norris had been around the heavyweight scene for a while, with a decent record, but he had never faced a fighter as dangerous as Tyson. The fight was initially viewed as a warm-up for Tyson, a chance to knock off some rust and prepare for bigger challenges. While Tyson was expected to win, Norris had his own motivations. After years of frustration with various setbacks in his career, he saw this fight as an opportunity to prove that he could still compete at the highest levels. But he would face not only the physical challenge of Tyson's raw power, but also the psychological pressure of taking on a boxer who had a reputation for demolishing opponents in the early rounds. Leading up to the fight, Tyson's camp was confident but cautious. His recent performances had been mixed, and the question was whether Tyson could still exhibit the same explosive aggression that had once made him a feared world champion. Norris, meanwhile, was determined to upset the odds and achieve a career-defining win. The media frenzy surrounding the event was massive, but it wasn't just the fight that was drawing attention. Tyson's controversial personality and past had led to widespread interest in whether he could regain his former glory. As the date approached, questions regarding Tyson's mental state and readiness became more pressing. Was he still the Mike Tyson of old, or was he a faded version of the champion who had once reigned supreme? And, more importantly, would he be able to handle the pressure of the fight and stay disciplined enough to claim victory without falling into old patterns of erratic behavior? The ring was set, the fighters were preparing, and the world was waiting to see how Tyson would perform in this new chapter of his career. The first round, the clash begins. As the fighters entered the ring on October 23, 1999, there was an air of tension in the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Tyson, wearing his familiar black trunks, appeared calm but focused, his eyes steely and intense. Norris, in contrast, seemed determined but cautious, aware of the Tyson possessed. As the bell rang for round one, the crowd erupted in excitement, eager to see whether Tyson could still live up to his reputation as one of the sport's most fearsome knockout artists. From the moment the bell rang, Tyson's trademark aggression was on full display. He charged towards Norris, closing the distance quickly with his usual head-down approach. Norris, no slouch himself, immediately went into defensive mode, trying to avoid Tyson's wild hooks and keeping his distance with his jab. Norris knew that Tyson's power could end the fight in an instant, so he focused on using his footwork to stay out of harm's way while looking for an opportunity to counter. Tyson, looking like his old self, was relentless. His punches were coming fast, hard, and from unpredictable angles. Norris managed to land a few jabs here and there, but it was clear that Tyson was in control of the round. The first minute of the round was all Tyson, who was using his speed and power to keep Norris on the back foot. Norris tried to weather the storm, moving around the ring and attempting to establish his own rhythm, but Tyson was constantly on the attack. Towards the end of round one, Tyson looked to land a huge right hand, But just as he did, the bell rang to signal the end of the round. Tyson, in his usual aggressive manner, threw a punch after the bell, landing on Norris' head. Norris, who had already been under constant pressure, immediately staggered backward, appearing to injure his knee as he fell to the canvas. The crowd went silent, unsure of what was happening. The referee stepped in to stop the action immediately, and Tyson, seemingly unaware of the severity of the situation, walked toward his corner. Norris, however, remained on the canvas, clutching his knee in apparent pain. The moment seemed surreal. It was clear that Norris was not just hurt from the punch, but was now claiming to have sustained a knee injury from the fall. The controversy unfolds, claims of a knee injury. As Norris lay on the canvas, the referee signaled for the ringside doctors to check on him. The crowd was in a state of confusion. Tyson, for his part, seemed unsure whether he was being penalized for the punch after the bell, while Norris continued to claim he could not continue because of the knee injury. The controversy quickly began to take shape. Norris was not known for being a particularly injury-prone fighter, but his claims of a knee injury led many to wonder if he was exaggerating the situation. Tyson, who had landed the punch after the bell, seemed to be the one in the wrong, but the question on everyone's mind was whether Norris was truly injured or whether he was looking for a way out of the fight. Tyson's camp, furious about the punch being ruled after the bell, was equally convinced that Norris was exaggerating his injury. Some in Tyson's corner argued that Norris had simply fallen awkwardly and was using the moment to avoid a dangerous fight with Tyson. The punch after the bell was, after all, a minor infraction compared to the chaos Tyson had been known for in his career, but it was still a violation of the rules. Tyson's anger and frustration, combined with Norris' claims, led to a tense standoff in the ring. The fight, which had started with so much promise and anticipation, was now mired in uncertainty. The referees, doctors, and officials tried to determine whether Norris was truly injured or if he was simply taking advantage of the situation. Norris, still down, continued to hold his knee, and it was clear that he was in no rush to get back up. Tyson's camp began to argue vehemently, claiming that Norris was faking the injury, while others in the crowd started to boo Norris for what they saw as an attempt to escape the fight. The decision a no contest. After several minutes of examination, the referee made his decision. He ruled the fight a no contest, citing the punch thrown after the bell as the main reason for the interruption. The fight, which had lasted only one round, was officially over. The crowd erupted in mixed reactions. Some booed, while others cheered in disbelief at what had just transpired. Tyson, who had been ready to continue his assault on Norris, was visibly frustrated. He had been disqualified or penalized in several past fights due to his temper and aggressive tendencies, but this was a different situation. He had been the one to land the punch after the bell, but the injury Norris claimed to have suffered was now in question. Norris, meanwhile, was escorted back to his corner, where he continued to receive medical attention. The controversy surrounding the fight would not subside. Tyson's camp was vocal in their belief that Norris had exaggerated the severity of the injury in order to avoid further punishment. Some even accused Norris of having a lack of heart, suggesting that he was not prepared to take on Tyson's power in round 2. On the other hand, Norris's camp claimed that Tyson's actions had been reckless, and that the punch after the bell had caused a genuine injury that prevented him from continuing. The decision left fans and analysts divided. Some felt that Tyson was unjustly penalized for a minor infraction, while others believed Norris was seeking an easy way out. The boxing world, as it often does, was left to debate the true nature of what had happened. Was Norris genuinely injured, or was he simply avoiding a fight with a man whose reputation for brutal knockouts preceded him? Aftermath and public reaction. The aftermath of the fight saw both fighters facing criticism, albeit from different quarters. Tyson, as always, was a polarizing figure. Some boxing fans defended him, claiming that the punch after the bell had been a mistake, not a deliberate act of malice. Others, however, saw it as just another example of Tyson's inability to control his temper and frustration. Norris, meanwhile, was caught up in the controversy surrounding his knee injury. Many fans were skeptical of the claim, especially given the fact that Norris had seemed to fall awkwardly rather than being struck in a way that would clearly result in a serious knee injury. Some believed that Norris had exaggerated the injury to avoid facing Tyson in the second round. Norris, in interviews following the fight, continued to insist that the injury was legitimate, but the damage to his credibility had been done. The fight was eventually ruled a no contest, and neither fighter received a win. Tyson's reputation as an unpredictable, volatile figure was further cemented. While his career would continue, the incident with Norris was another blemish on his already tumultuous legacy. Norris, meanwhile, would continue his career, but would forever be associated with the controversy of that night. In the years that followed, both Tyson and Norris would continue to box, but their careers would take different trajectories. Tyson would eventually work his way back into the spotlight, even claiming another heavyweight title. But the fight with Norris remained a symbol of the volatility that defined Tyson's time in the ring. The long-term impact Tyson's reputation and legacy. The Tyson-Norris fight, which ended in controversy, ultimately didn't define either fighter's career, but it did have a lasting impact on Tyson's legacy. It wasn't the violent spectacle of the bite fight or the brutal knockouts he had delivered in his prime, but it was another example of Tyson's unfulfilled potential. The no-contest result added to the narrative that Tyson, despite his undeniable talent, had not always been able to control his mental state in the ring. The Norris fight, much like many others in Tyson's career, showcased the emotional volatility that often hindered his performance. For some, it was another chapter in a career marked by unpredictability and controversy. For others, it was just a minor blip in a storied career. Whatever the case, Tyson's legacy would forever be intertwined with these controversies, and the public's perception of him as both a brilliant and flawed athlete would remain.